Hi guys, so our group is going to tell you about the writing CBM, which is in chapter 6 of our book. So Mackenzie's gonna start us off.
Sorry, a dog on me. Anyways.
Yeah, ignore my dog's barking.
He'll bark. Hang on. Adds character, right? Okay, so to start off, you're going to need materials to conduct the writing CBM. You're going to need a different but equivalent story starter for your students that are grade level appropriate. Obviously, you're going to need the directions for administering this test. Lined paper and a writing utensil for the students, a stopwatch or a countdown timer that displays the seconds, a quiet testing environment to work with your students, and then a graph or graphing program to collect your plot data. And then some places to find story starters are on Ames Web and in Intervention Central. The websites are listed on page 101 in our textbook. And then on page 102 and 103, there are a bunch of different story starters that are available. And they range from primary, intermediate, and advanced. So you can look there for a bunch of different starters. The directions for administering this are provide your students with a pencil and a piece of lined paper or their writing notebook. And then you're going to select an appropriate story starter. And then you're going to say, today I want you to write a story. I'm going to read a sentence to you first, and then I want you to compose a short story about what happens. You will have 1 minute to think about what you will write and 3 minutes to write your story. Remember to do your best work, and if you do not know how to spell a word, you should guess. Are there any questions? And then you pause for the questions. And then you're going to say, put your pencils down and listen. For the next minute, think about, and then you're going to insert your story starter. After reading the story starter, begin your stopwatch and allow 1 minute for your students to think, and monitor your students so they don't begin writing. After 30 seconds, say you should be thinking about, and then insert your story starter again. At the end of the minute, restart your stopwatch for 3 minutes and say begin writing. Monitor your students' attention to the task. Encourage the students to work if they are not writing. After 90 seconds, say you should be writing about, insert the story starter. At the end of 3 minutes, say, thank you, put your pencils down.
So after you have administered the test, you actually are going to score it in 3 different ways. So the first way that you can score it is you're going to be scoring the total words written. So that's pretty obvious. It's just going to be counting every single word that was written. That includes like abbreviations like Mr., like the MR period, that kind of stuff. So that's every single word written. And then you're done with that score. So then the next one you're going to do is you're going to find the total words spelled correctly. So the way it says to do that in the book is just circle all the incorrect words, and then count those incorrect words and subtract that from the total words that you just counted for the total words. So pretty simple there. The last one is called the correct writing sequences, and these are all abbreviated. So this one's CWS. The last one was WSC for words spelled correctly, and the total words written is TWW. So that's not super relevant, but just so you know. So for the correct writing sequences, so this one is going to tell you more about grammar, and it's going to give you tons of patterns. So this one's going to give you more information really than the other ones are going to give you information for, especially with like instruction, coming up with instruction. So basically the way this one works is you're going to count how many words are written correctly in a sequence, if that makes sense. So it's going to be grammatically correct and spelled correctly. So, for example, this one says, she waited for me at the store. So the words waited and store are spelled incorrectly. So there's the correct writing sequence is only going to be 4. So she waited for me at the store. That's actually 6, but since 2 words were spelled incorrectly, it's 4, if that makes sense. So it's a lot more clear in the book. If you look on page 108 and 109, it gives tons of examples, and it'll make a lot more sense than me trying to explain it like that. So yeah, that's pretty much how you score it. So you'll use those 3 to score the writing. So
Alrighty, and then things to keep in mind. Make sure that we're not correcting students if they're making an error, and even though the total words written and the words spelled correctly are easy to score, they tend to yield fluency information only. The extra time needed to score the correct writing sequences is suggested at all levels for students below grade level in writing. It supplies a great deal of useful information about error patterns and missing skills. Directions should be read. It's scripted, and students should not receive additional instructions or corrections during any part of the test administration. And if you find that the 3-minute written responses do not yield enough information, longer samples using 5 and 10 minutes can be used for analysis, but if you want to compare it to the normative sample, you need to make sure that you still mark that 3-minute stopping point to know how far they got in that 3 minutes. And then it can be used as a screening to see it says 3 times a year, to see if students are at risk for academic failure and if core instruction is meeting the needs of the students, and then to progress monitor students who have been identified at risk. And then it typically takes about 5 minutes to administer the writing sample, and then the time needed for scoring depends on the number of measures scored and the grade level of the students. You're fine. And then on page 114, it has all of those norms written out for you, so you can look at those if you wanted to. And then also on the next page, they have examples of goals and objectives that you can use to help write IEP goals for students if you need to.
So that's the writing CBM.